everybody, and welcome back to the 2018 Granny Square Crochet Along. I am Jeanette. I'm one of the charters with the group, and today we are going to be working on square number 176, the 3 daisy square. I don't know if you can kind of tell from how it looks, but this is sort of the companion square to number 174. So it's kind of made in the same way this one was made. We don't have the mesh that this one has running throughout, but the way that the space is made for the flowers is the same as in this one, but the flowers are attached later, whereas these were worked while we were making the square. So let's go ahead and get started on number 176, 3 daisy square. We are going to start with a chain of 24. Okay. And now we are going to make our first stitch in the 4th chain from the hook. Depending on how you crochet, you might need to do this row in half double crochets. You might need to do it in single crochets. If you crochet a little looser, you should go with a smaller stitch. If you crochet a little tighter, then follow the pattern and do this row in double crochet. Also, if you're not using the recommended hook and yarn, you'll have to adjust for that. I'm going to be doing the first and last rows, number 1 and 13, in half double crochet because that's what I need to get to 6 inches. Once you are familiar with how you crochet, you'll be able to make the same kind of adjustments for yourself. And we are almost to the end. Okay, this is my last stitch. You might want to double check and make sure that you have 22 stitches across. And for row number 2, we are going to chain 3, and that is our first double crochet. And then we're going to put 1 double crochet in each stitch all the way to the end of the row, and that will complete row 2. So we'll start row 3 once you have that done. So I'm at the last stitch, and of course we're going to go into the top chain from where we turned the row below. So don't forget the last stitch always goes into a chain. It doesn't always look like it's supposed to, but you'll end up losing a stitch every row if you don't. So this is the end of row 2. Now we're going to work on row 3. We chain 3, that's the first double crochet, and we're going to put 15 more double crochets in the next 15 stitches for a total of 16. Row number 3 is the first flower row, and this square is a little different from 174. In that the flowers are put on after the square has been made. So we are just prepping the square with spaces to add the flowers to later. So And once the square is done, we'll focus on making the flowers. So we need 16 double crochets, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I need 3 more. Okay, that's 16, and what we need to do to make the space for the flower is chain 2, skip 2, and double crochet in the remaining stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, and into the top chain, and that will give us 4. And it's always a little tight for me. There we go. So that's the end of round 3, or row 3 rather. So you should have this one square at the end of your row, and that's where we will put a flower later. And for rows 4, 5, and 6, we are going to repeat row 2, in that we chain 3 and double crochet in each stitch. This first row, row 4, is a little different because we have the chain 2 space, but it still counts as 2 stitches. So we'll put 2 double crochets in the chain 2 space, just like that, and then it's 1 in each stitch to the end. And that's for row 4. For row 5 and 6, it's going to be just like row 2, 1 double crochet in each stitch to the end. So we'll come back once you've done that. And here we are at the end of row 6, and I just need to make my last stitch into my turning chain. And row 7 is another flower row, so we're going to chain 3 for our first double crochet, and this one is going to be placed in the center of the square instead of the left hand corner. So we are going to double crochet in the next 9 stitches for a total of 10 double crochets. And then we are going to make the space for our flower the same way we did on row 3. And that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, I need 1 more. And then we chain 2, skip 2, double crochet into the next stitch, and in the remaining 9 stitches, don't forget your turning chain at the end. We want to make sure we maintain 22 stitches on every row, so including your chain 2. You should have 10 on this side, 10 on this side, and your chain 2 in the middle for a total of 22. And then we are going to repeat this section right here, rows 4 through 6. We're going to repeat what we did here for rows 8 through 10. So go ahead and finish up your row and double crochet once in each stitch for the next 3 rows, and we'll come back at the end of row 10. Okay, so I am done with row 10. And now we are on to row 11, which is another flower row. So we are going to start same as every other row with the chain 3. That's the first double crochet, and this row is the exact opposite of the first flower row, row 3. So as this one ends with 4 double crochets, this one is going to begin with 4 double crochets. So we already have our first one with the chain 3, so we need to double crochet in the next 3 stitches. And the same as the other 2 rows, we're going to chain 2, skip 2, and double crochet into the next stitch, and in the remaining 15 stitches. And then for rows 12 and 13, row 12 is a double crochet row, and row 13 is the last row. So depending on how you did your first row, you would repeat that on row 13. So I did my first row in half double crochet, so I am going to double crochet the next row, row 12, and then half double crochet on row 13, so I can get to a 6-inch size. That's what I need because of how I crochet, and with the yarn that I'm using and the hook that I'm using. Those are my adjustments. So do your next row in double crochet and your last row in whatever stitch corresponds to your first row, and we'll come back once that's done. Here I am at the last stitch on row 13, so I'm going to do my last half double. Do whatever stitch you need to do, but that's how that row is ended. And I'm going to go ahead and cut the yarn. And now we're going to work on the flowers. So there's 3 of them, and if you want to do them in the same color as your square, that's up to you. It's recommended in the pattern to do them in a contrasting color. We are going to join our yarn in the first double crochet that we skipped over to make our space for our flower, and this is done from the front of the square. So we join with a slip stitch, tighten it up, chain 1, and single crochet in that same stitch, and then we single crochet in the next stitch. Let me move this end out of the way, and then we're going to single crochet into the corner. So however you're able to get that done, wherever you need to stick your hook. I'm going to go right here. We're trying to make a circle for the center of the flower. We're going to put 2 single crochets around this post that's on the left hand side. And we need to put another single crochet in this corner. So that's there. And then 2 single crochets are in between the single crochets above. So we'll go next to this one, That's the first, and in between those, that's the second. It's getting a little closed up, so it might be hard to see now what's happening. We need to go into the next corner, and that's right around here. And then 2 more single crochets around this post. And then 1 more single crochet around this corner. And we are back to our first single crochet, and we join with a slip stitch. So this is what you should have at the end of round 1 for the flower. That's what it should look like. So now we need to chain 6, and slip stitch into the next single crochet. Chain 6, and slip stitch into the next single crochet. Chain 6, slip stitch into the next single crochet, chain 6, slip stitch into the next. We're basically going to be doing this all the way around, and I'll meet you back at the end when we're on our last petal. So we are now at the 12th petal. So I'm going to chain 6, and join with a slip stitch back to where our first petal was started. And this is what you should have. And it lays pretty flat. You might have to give them a little tug to help get the stitches to fall flat. If yours is a little ruffled, if it doesn't matter to you, then that's fine. I'm going to go ahead and walk you through this one more time. So just cut the yarn. Pull that through. And pull to tighten. So starting at the next one, we have to find the 2 double crochets in the bottom of the hole, and we start with the one on the right. So that's our slip stitch, pull to tighten, chain 1, and single crochet in the same stitch, single crochet in the next stitch, single crochet into the corner, left side post, we're going to put 2 single crochets, and we are at our next corner. So slip your hook in wherever you're comfortable and put a single crochet into the corner, and then 1 single crochet in between these 3 stitches in the top. So we'll go between these 2 and between these 2. And we're back at another corner. Single crochet into the corner, and 2 single crochets around the right hand post, and we're at our last corner. Single crochet around that and join with a slip stitch to the beginning single crochet. And from here on out, we are going to chain 6 and slip stitch in the next single crochet a total of 12 times for 12 petals, and our second flower will be done. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And slip stitch into the next. So go ahead and get your next 12 petals done and finish your 3rd flower, and I'll meet you back at the end of the 3rd flower. Here we are at the last 2 petals, so I'm going to chain 6. This is the 11th petal. Join with the slip stitch into the next single crochet, chain 6, and this is the last petal. So we join with the slip stitch to the stitch that the first petal starts in, and that's it. Cut your yarn. You'll have a few ends to weave in, but this is what you should have at the end of square number 176, the 3 daisy square. This is how it should look once it's done. Hope you enjoyed making this one, and don't forget to subscribe and to like, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.